The deep silence of space surrounded the USS Valiant as it moved slowly through the darkness near Neptune's orbit. Commander Daniel Wright stood with his hands behind his back, looking out at the strange crystal-like ships that floated in the distance. These ships had appeared 2 days ago without any warning. They were the first aliens humans had ever seen. "Any response to our messages?" Daniel asked, turning to look at Communications Officer Olivia Russell. Olivia shook her head. "No, sir. I've tried all frequencies. They're receiving our signals, but they aren't answering." Daniel nodded and turned back to the window. The Valiant was Earth's newest and most powerful warship. It had been sent to meet these visitors because no one knew if they came in peace. 6 crystal ships hung in space, glowing with soft blue light. They were beautiful, but also scary in a way Daniel couldn't explain. "They're scanning us again," Lieutenant Susan Carter said from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over her screen. "This scan is different. It's going deeper than before. Can we block it?" Daniel asked. Susan tried some commands but shook her head. "No, sir. Their technology is too advanced. They're looking at everything." On the lead alien ship, Chief Science Officer Zek Thal watched the data flow in. The Zilari had visited 12 other worlds before, and each time the local species had quickly given up when they saw how powerful Zilari technology was. No war had ever been needed. But this human ship troubled Zekthal. "This vessel is not what I expected," Zekthal said to Senior Analyst Renville. "Look at the hull composition." Renville moved her 4 thin arms across the floating display of light. "Yes, it's surprising. For a species that has only recently achieved space travel, the metal alloys are remarkably strong." "And notice the layout," Zekthal added. "This is not a ship of peace or exploration." The hologram showed the Valiant's basic structure. Unlike Zilari ships, which were built with beauty and comfort in mind, the human ship was clearly made for war. Every part of it served a purpose. There were no wasted spaces. "Their power core is interesting," Renville said. "It's much less efficient than ours, but they've built many backup systems. If one fails, another takes over immediately." Zekthal's eyes narrowed. "That suggests they expect systems to fail. They expect damage." Back on the Valiant, Chief Engineer Jack Morrison noticed the power readings changing. "Commander, something strange is happening. They're not just scanning us now. They're somehow testing our systems." "What do you mean?" Daniel asked. "It's like they're sending small power surges through different parts of the ship to see how we respond," Jack explained. "I've never seen anything like it." Daniel frowned. "Are they trying to disable us?" "I don't think so," Jack said. "If they wanted to shut us down, I think they could. They're just studying us." In the Zilari ship, Renville had moved to analyzing the weapon systems. What she found made her call for Zekthal immediately. "Look at this," she said when the science officer arrived. "They have multiple weapon types. Projectile weapons that use magnetic acceleration, missile systems with nuclear warheads, even early-stage energy weapons." Zekthal stared at the display. "This is troubling. Most species develop either projectile or energy weapons. These humans have developed both paths simultaneously. And there's more," Renville said. "The weapons cover every possible attack angle. There are no blind spots." Zekthal felt a chill. The Zilari had always relied on their superior technology. They had never needed to think much about warfare. But these humans clearly thought about little else. "I need to inform the Grand Admiral," Zekthal said. "Continue your analysis." On the Valiant, Security Chief Ryan Blackwood joined Commander Wright on the bridge. "Sir, I don't like this. They're taking too long to respond to our messages." Daniel nodded. "I know, but we need to be patient. This is first contact." "Yes, but why are they scanning us so thoroughly?" Ryan asked. My security team reports that the scans have gone through every deck. They're looking at our weapons, our life support, even our personal quarters. Maybe that's just how they say. Hello, Daniel said with a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. Grand Admiral Vexer of the Zilari Collective was not pleased to be disturbed. His ship was at the back of the formation, safely distant from the human vessel. What is so important? Science officer? He asked when Zekthal's image appeared before him. Admiral, the human ship is concerning me, Zekthal said. It is built entirely for war. The Admiral waved a dismissive hand. All primitive species build warships when they first reach space. They are afraid of what they might find. This is different, Zekthal insisted. Their ship has defensive capabilities beyond what is reasonable for their technology level. They have clearly put all their resources into military development. Are you suggesting these humans are a threat to us? Vexer asked with a laugh. Our ships could destroy them with a single energy pulse. Yes, but look at this, Zekthal said, sending data to the Admiral. Their reactor can be overloaded intentionally. If their ship was about to be destroyed, they could turn it into a massive bomb. This got the Admiral's attention. They would destroy themselves? It appears so, Zekthal said. And potentially any nearby ships as well. The Admiral's skin changed. Color slightly, showing his concern. Continue your analysis. I want to know everything about these humans before we decide how to proceed. On the Valiant, Medical Officer Ben Howard was checking equipment when he noticed the strange energy readings in the medical bay. Commander, he called over the communication. System, they're scanning the medical bay now. Should I be concerned? Stay calm, Ben, Daniel replied. Let them look. We have nothing to hide. But they did have things the aliens might find strange. The medical bay was large for a ship this size. It was designed to handle massive casualties. There were special sections for radiation treatment, burn units, and even a small but complete surgery theater. Like everything else on the Valiant, the medical bay was built with war in mind. As the scan moved through the crew quarters, the Zilari began to learn about humans themselves. They saw the physical training facilities, the combat simulation rooms, and the personal weapons each crew member was assigned. These humans trained constantly for war, Renville reported. Even their rest periods are short by our standards. Zekthal reviewed the data with growing concern. What kind of species evolves like this? What kind of world produces creatures so focused on conflict? The answer came as they scanned the ship's database. Earth was revealed as a planet of constant change and challenge. Storms, earthquakes, floods, and other natural disasters were common. The gravity was higher than on the Zilari homeworld. Radiation from their sun was stronger. Even the temperature range was extreme by Zilari standards. They evolved on a death world, Zekthal whispered. Everything on their planet was trying to kill them from the beginning. The implications were clear and frightening. The Zilari had evolved on a gentle world with few predators and stable weather. They had developed technology to make life easier. The humans had developed technology to survive against all odds. As the first day of contact ended, both ships remained in position, watching each other across the emptiness of space. But while Commander Daniel Wright hoped for peaceful communication, to begin soon, the Zilari were reaching a very different conclusion about the possibility of friendship with these strange and terrifying humans. The second day of the standoff began with no change in the situation. The crystal ships of the Zilari remained in formation, still not responding to any messages from the Valiant. Commander Daniel Wright called his senior officers to the meeting. Room to discuss their next steps. They've been scanning us non-stop for almost 24 hours, Chief Engineer Jack Morrison said, showing data on the main screen. They've looked at every inch of our ship. Security Chief Ryan Blackwood leaned forward in his chair. I don't like it. They know all our capabilities now, all our weaknesses. Maybe that's what they need to feel safe, Daniel suggested. Remember, we're as alien to them as they are to us. Medical Officer Ben Howard nodded. The commander is right. This could just be their way of understanding us before they talk. Lieutenant Susan Carter wasn't convinced. Sir, they're now focusing their scans on our crew. Not just our physical spaces, but us as people. They're accessing our personal files, our medical records, even our training simulations. This news made everyone uncomfortable. Daniel frowned, but kept his voice calm. Continue to allow the scans. We came here to make peaceful contact. Let's give them time. Inside the lead Zilari ship, Senior Analyst Renville was becoming more disturbed with each new discovery about the humans. She had never seen anything like them in all her years of studying alien species. Zekthal, you need to see this, she called. To the science officer. I've analyzed their physical capabilities. Zekthal floated over to her station. The Jilari moved gracefully in their low-gravity environment, their thin bodies and 4 arms designed for delicate work rather than physical. Strength. What have you found? He asked. Renville displayed the human biological data. These creatures are incredibly durable. They can survive radiation levels that would kill a Zilari in minutes. Their bones are dense and strong. Their muscles can lift several times their own body weight. That's because they evolved on a high-gravity planet, Zekthal noted. Yes, but there's more, Renville continued. Their bodies can heal from wounds that would be fatal to us. They can lose significant amounts of blood and still function. They can even survive the loss of entire limbs. Zekthal's skin paled slightly. How is that possible? They have redundant systems, just like their ship, Renville explained. 2 lungs, 2 kidneys, a large liver that can regrow itself. And look at this, their bodies are filled with microorganisms that help them digest food and fight disease. They live with other species inside them? Zekthal was shocked. The Silari were careful to keep their bodies pure and free from any contamination. They don't just live with these microorganisms, they depend on them, Renville said. The humans have evolved alongside countless other species, both helpful and harmful. Their entire existence has been a constant battle for survival. On the Valiant, engineer Kelly Patterson noticed something strange in the ship's computer system. She called Commander Wright immediately. Sir, they're not just scanning our files anymore, she reported. They're watching our training simulations, our battle drills. They're studying how we fight. Daniel walked over to her station. Show me. Kelly brought up a display showing which files the aliens were accessing. See here? They're reviewing all our combat scenarios, especially the ones where we face overwhelming odds. Daniel understood why this might worry the aliens. The Valiant's training programs included many situations where the crew was expected to fight on, despite taking heavy damage or losses. Surrender was rarely an option in these drills. They're trying to understand our psychology, Daniel said. Let them look. In the Zilari ship, behavioral analyst Mektal had joined the research team. His job was to understand how alien species thought and behaved. What he was learning about humans filled him with dread. They trained constantly for scenarios we would consider hopeless, he told Zekthal and Renville. Look at this simulation. Their ship is severely damaged, half their crew is dead, and they're surrounded by enemy vessels. Yet they continue fighting. Perhaps it's just a training exercise to test their limits. Zekthal suggested. MEK single quotes Tall shook his head. No, I've reviewed their historical records. This behavior is consistent throughout their history. Human warriors have often fought to the death rather than surrender, even when defeat was certain. That makes no logical sense, Renville said. The purpose of conflict is to gain advantage. If no advantage can be gained, Continuing to fight is pointless. Humans don't think like we do, Mektal explained. They have a concept they call honor that sometimes values dying in battle over living in defeat. This information was troubling enough that Grand Admiral Vexer called a meeting of the War Council. The Zilari had conquered many star systems, but always through demonstrations of superior technology rather than actual combat. Most species surrendered quickly when they saw Zilari power. Could we defeat these humans if necessary? The Admiral asked bluntly. War Minister Kazler considered the question. Our technology is far superior to theirs. We could destroy their ship easily. But Vexer sensed the hesitation in the minister's voice. But their psychological profile suggests they would not surrender even if facing certain destruction. Kazler said, they might damage or destroy some of our vessels before we defeated them. This was not what the Admiral wanted to hear. The Jilari had not lost a ship in combat for over 500 years. The thought of taking casualties was disturbing. And what about their homeworld? The Admiral asked. If we needed to conquer it? The War Minister displayed images of Earth from the eye. Human database. Their planet has over 8 billion humans living on it. They have thousands of warships, both in space and on their oceans. Their military forces are divided into competing groups by different regions, each with their own weapons and tactics. That sounds like an advantage for us, the Admiral said. They fight among themselves. No, the War Minister corrected him. Their history shows that when faced with an external threat, these competing groups unite. And their tactics ... He paused, seeming disturbed. They use methods we would never consider. They fight at night. They hide among civilian populations. They use the environment as a weapon. They even have a concept called guerrilla warfare, where smaller forces harass and wear down larger ones over long periods. The Admiral's skin turned a dark blue, showing his anger. Are you saying we cannot conquer them? I'm saying the cost would be high, the War Minister replied carefully. Higher than any conflict in our recent history. We would eventually win through superior technology, but we would suffer significant losses. As this discussion continued, on the Valiant, Commander Daniel Wright made a decision. Nearly 2 days had passed with no response from the aliens. Olivia, send one more message, he ordered. Tell them we're going to approach slowly, with shields lowered as a sign of good faith. If they want peaceful contact, now is the time to respond. Communications Officer Olivia Russell sent the message, but there was still no reply from the crystal ships. Helm, move us forward at 1/4 speed, Daniel ordered. Let's see how they react. As the Valiant began to move closer to the alien fleet, alarms suddenly blared on the Zilari vessels. The humans were approaching, and the Zilari had to decide quickly how to respond to these strange and frightening creatures from a death world. Alarms flashed across the Zilari command ship as the human vessel began moving toward them. Grand Admiral Vexer rushed to the control center, his skin flashing with patterns of concern. Why are they approaching? He demanded. Have they sent any messages? Communications Director Telran nodded quickly. Yes, Admiral. They say they are approaching slowly, with their shields lowered as a sign of good faith. They want to establish direct contact. The Admiral looked at the main screen, showing the human warship. It was moving very slowly, clearly trying not to appear threatening. But after 2 days of analyzing the vessel, the Zilari knew just how dangerous it could be. Science Officer, what is your assessment? The Admiral asked Zekthel. Zekthel had been studying the humans non-stop. Their weapons are not powered up, and their shields are indeed lowered. But they could activate both in seconds. Should we see this as a threat? The Admiral pressed. Zekthel's 4 arms moved in a gesture of uncertainty. I don't believe so. Based on their communications, They genuinely want peaceful contact. But ... He hesitated. But what? The Admiral's voice was sharp. But everything. We've learned about humans suggests they are always prepared for conflict. It is built into their psychology, their culture, and their technology. Even in peace, they think of war. On the Valiant, Commander Daniel Wright watched the alien ships carefully as his vessel moved closer. So far, they had not reacted in any visible way. Still no response to our message? He asked Olivia. No, sir, she replied. But they're receiving it, and they've increased their scanning of our bridge. They're watching us right now. Daniel nodded and deliberately relaxed his posture, trying to appear calm and non-threatening. All stations remain calm. No sudden movements. Lieutenant. Susan Carter spoke quietly from her tactical station. Sir, one of their ships is moving. It's taking a position that gives them a clear firing line at us. Noted, Daniel said without changing his expression. Maintain course and speed. In the Zilari ship, War Minister Kasler had ordered a defensive position. We should be prepared. If the humans attack, he explained to the Admiral. Do you think they will? Admiral Vexer asked. Before the War Minister could answer, behavioral analyst Mektal spoke up. I don't believe an attack is their intention, but I have discovered something very concerning in their historical records. He brought up images on the main screen showing human conflicts throughout history. Humans have a pattern of exploration, followed by colonization and conflict. They discover new lands, establish contact with the native populations, and eventually take over those lands. You think they plan to colonize Zilari space? The Admiral asked, his skin darkening with anger. Not necessarily with us, Mektal clarified. We are clearly more technologically advanced, but this behavior is deeply ingrained in their history. They may not even be aware of this pattern. Science Officer Zekthal added more troubling information. We've analyzed their weapons thoroughly now. They are designed to kill, not disable. Their projectile weapons tear through flesh and bone. Their missiles create massive explosions that destroy everything in a large area. All weapons are designed to kill, the War Minister said dismissively. Not true, Zekthal countered. Our weapons are designed to disable enemy technology and can be adjusted to stun rather than kill living beings. The human weapons show no such restraint. They are built for maximum damage. On the Valiant, Engineer Kelly Patterson was monitoring a power systems when she noticed something strange. Commander, she called over the communication system. The aliens have just powered up some kind of energy weapons. They're not aiming at us, but they're definitely getting ready for something. Daniel frowned. This wasn't the response he had hoped for. Hold position, he ordered. Let's not give them any reason to feel threatened. Back on the Zilari ship, a new discovery was causing great concern. Senior Analyst Renville had been examining the human crew's personal records and had found something unexpected. Many of the humans aboard their vessel have voluntarily modified their bodies, she reported. To the science officer, they have artificial parts mixed with their natural biology. Zekthal was shocked. They willingly replace healthy body parts with machinery? Some do, Renville confirmed. Especially their warriors. Some have enhanced vision, strengthened bones, or even internal medical systems that can keep them alive after severe injuries. This news disturbed the Zilari deeply. To them, the natural body was sacred. The idea of replacing parts of it with machines was horrifying. What kind of beings would do this to themselves? Admiral Vexer asked. Beings who value survival above all else, Mektal answered quietly. Beings who will change their very bodies to become more effective at warfare. On the Valiant, Medical Officer Ben Howard was reviewing some routine medical scans when he felt a strange tingling sensation. He looked down at his artificial left hand, a replacement after losing his real one in an accident years ago. The metal fingers were moving slightly on their own. "That's strange," he muttered. He called engineering. "Kelly, something's interfering." "With my prosthetic. Are the aliens scanning medical again?" "Yes," Kelly confirmed. "They've been focused on medical the last 20 minutes. Especially on you, actually." Ben frowned. "On me? Why would they?" Then he understood. "They're interested in my prosthetic hand." Commander Wright was informed of this development immediately. "They're studying our medical technology now," he told his officers. "Specifically, our ability to replace lost body parts." "Sir," Ryan Blackwood said, "if they're so advanced, why would they care about our medical technology?" "They must be far ahead of us." "Maybe not in this area," Daniel suggested. "Different species evolve different technologies at different rates. Perhaps biological engineering isn't their strength." The Xilari War Council was now in full session, with all 12 members present either physically or through hologram. The debate was intense. "We should destroy the human ship now," one council member argued, "before they report back to their homeworld about us. That would be an act of war against a species that has shown no hostility," another countered. "We have never fired first in any encounter." Admiral Vexer listened to all sides before speaking. "What troubles me most is not their current capabilities, but what they might become. Their technology is advancing rapidly. Their understanding of biology, combined with their willingness to merge with machines, could make them formidable in the future." Science Officer Zechthel agreed. "Their ship is crude compared to ours, but remarkably effective for their technology level. If they continued to advance at their current rate, they could match some of our capabilities within a century." "A century is a long time," one council member noted. "Not for a species that thinks in terms of generations," Mactal said. "Humans plan for the future. They build things meant to last beyond their own lifetimes." As the Xilari debated, the Valiant remained in position, waiting for some response. Daniel was beginning to think this approach had been a mistake when Olivia suddenly straightened in her chair. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the alien ship," she said excitedly. "They're responding." Daniel felt a wave of relief. "On screen," he ordered. The main screen flickered, and for the first time, the humans saw a Xilari face. It had large eyes, pale skin, and delicate features. When it spoke, the ship's computer translated its musical language into English. "Human. Vessel," the alien said formally. "We are the Xilari Collective. We have received your messages of peace. We wish to understand your intentions in this region of space." Daniel stood up straight and addressed the alien with respect. "I am Commander Daniel Wright of the Earthship Valiant. We came in peace to establish first contact with your species. We have no hostile intentions." The alien was silent for a moment before responding. "We have studied your vessel thoroughly. It is a warship." Daniel nodded. "Yes, it is designed for defense. We didn't know what we might encounter in deep space. But our mission is peaceful exploration and diplomacy." The alien's large eyes blinked slowly. "We will continue our discussion. But you must not approach any closer to our vessels. Maintain your current position." The screen went dark before Daniel could respond. He looked around at his officers, who seemed both excited and confused. "Well," Daniel said with a small smile, "at least they're talking to us now." But on the Xilari command ship, Grand Admiral Vexer turned to his war council with a grim expression. "Prepare a retreat plan," he ordered quietly. "I want our ships ready to leave this system immediately if necessary." The next 12 hours were filled with careful messages between the Valiant and the Xilari ships. The aliens kept their communications formal and brief. They asked many questions about Earth, human history, and the purpose of the Valiant's mission. Commander Daniel Wright answered honestly, trying to establish trust. "They're being very careful with us," Daniel told his senior officers during a private meeting. "They keep their distance and limit what they share about themselves." "Can you blame them?" Security Chief Ryan Blackwood asked. "We probably seem very strange to them." Lieutenant Susan Carter nodded in agreement. "And scary. Their technology is more advanced than ours, but they act like they're afraid of us." Daniel considered this. Maybe they are. We should remember, that different doesn't always mean better. They may have technology we don't have, but that doesn't mean they're better at everything. On the main Zilari ship, Science Officer Zik Thal was reviewing the information the humans had shared. Most of it matched what they had already learned from scanning the Valiant's databases, which suggested the humans were being truthful. They claimed to be on a mission of peaceful exploration, Zekthal reported to Grand Admiral Vexer, but their ship is heavily armed. "Perhaps they're telling the truth about being cautious," the Admiral suggested. "Space is dangerous. We arm our ships as well." "Not like this," Zekthal said, bringing up images of the Valiant's weapon systems. "Our weapons are precise and clean. Theirs are designed to cause maximum destruction. And there's something else that concerns me greatly." He showed the Admiral a section of the ship's design that had puzzled the Zilari analysts. "This appears to be a landing bay for smaller craft, but it's empty." "Perhaps they don't use smaller craft," the Admiral suggested. "No, look at these connection points," Zekthal pointed. "Something should be attached here. And the database mentions drop ships that can carry troops from orbit to a planet's surface." The Admiral's skin paled. "You think they have hidden capabilities we haven't detected?" "I think this ship is part of a larger force," Zekthal said. "It may be an advanced scout for a human fleet." This possibility greatly concerned the Zilari leaders. They immediately began more intensive scans of the surrounding space, looking for signs of other human ships hiding nearby. On the Valiant, Engineer Kelly Patterson noticed the change in scanning patterns. "Commander, they're not focusing on us anymore. They're scanning outward, looking at empty space." Daniel frowned. "They think we're not alone. They're looking for other ships." "Should we tell them we are alone?" Communications Officer Olivia Russell asked. Daniel thought for a moment. "No, let them look. If they think we might have backup nearby, they'll be less likely to try anything hostile." As the hours passed, the Zilari became increasingly anxious. Behavioral analyst Mektal had been studying the human responses carefully and brought his findings to the War Council. "The humans are displaying a behavior pattern I find concerning," he reported. "They answer our questions, but reveal very little important information. This is consistent with military interrogation resistance training. You think they're hiding something?" War Minister Kasler asked. "I think they're being careful," Mektal replied. "But more importantly, I believe they're assessing our capabilities just as we are assessing theirs." The War Minister turned to Science Officer Zik Thal. "Have they been able to scan our ships?" "Our shielding prevents deep scanning," Zek Thal assured him. "But they have visual data on our ship design and have likely detected our energy signatures. They know we're more technologically advanced, but they don't know the details of our capabilities." "That may be what's protecting us," Mektal said quietly. The Admiral looked sharply at him. "Explain." "Humans have a concept called mutually assured destruction," Mektal explained. "During their history, opposing sides developed weapons so powerful that using them would destroy both sides. This prevented war because neither side could win." "You think they believe they could destroy us if we attacked them?" the Admiral asked, sounding offended. "I think they want us to believe that," Mektal said. "Their ship has multiple systems that could be turned into weapons of last resort. If they were losing a battle, They could self-destruct in a way that would damage or destroy nearby ships. The Admiral considered this disturbing information. So they would die just to ensure. We die with them? Based on their military history, yes, Mektal confirmed. They have a concept called taking the enemy with you. Their warriors have often sacrificed themselves to kill their enemies. On the Valiant, Medical Officer Ben Howard was reviewing data from the ship's sensors that monitored the crew's health. He noticed something strange and called Commander Wright. "Sir, I'm seeing elevated stress levels across the crew," he reported. "Heart rates, blood pressure, stress hormones, they're all higher than normal." Daniel wasn't surprised. "We're in a tense first contact situation, Ben. Some stress is expected." "Yes, but the aliens might be detecting these physiological changes," Ben pointed out. "If they're scanning us, they might interpret these stress indicators as signs of hostile intent." Daniel realized Ben was right. Good point. Have all department heads talk to their teams. Remind everyone to stay calm and follow normal routines. We don't want the aliens to think we're preparing for a fight. The Zilari indeed had noticed the elevated biological signs in the humans. Senior Analyst Renvell reported this to Zek Thiel with concern. "The humans are showing increased adrenaline production and heightened alertness," she said. "These are pre-combat biological responses in many species." "Are they preparing to attack?" Zekthil wondered. "Possibly," Renville said. "Or they may simply be responding to a stressful situation." Zekthal shared this information with Grand Admiral Vexer, who called an emergency meeting of the Zilari, Collective's highest council. The 12 oldest and wisest Zilari joined through holographic projection. "We must decide how to proceed with these humans," the Admiral explained. "They are dangerous, unpredictable, and potentially hostile." The eldest council member, Murda, spoke slowly. "In all our history of encountering new species, we have never found one that caused such concern. What makes these humans so different?" Science Officer Zekthal answered carefully. "They evolved on a world that required extreme adaptation. Their bodies are built to endure hardship. Their minds are wired to expect conflict. Their technology is designed for war, even when they claim to come in peace. Most concerning," added behavioral analyst Mektal, "is their unpredictability. Most species follow logical patterns. If threatened, they retreat. If overpowered, they surrender. Humans do not always follow this logic. They sometimes fight harder when defeat seems certain." The council discussed the situation for hours while the Valiant waited. Finally, Murda announced their decision. "We will not risk conflict with these humans," the Elder said. "We will complete our studies, then leave this system and place warning markers on all approach vectors." Grand Admiral Vexer nodded in agreement. "And if the humans follow us? Then we must be prepared for all possibilities," Murda said grimly. On the Valiant, Daniel was growing frustrated with the lack of progress. "They ask questions, but tell us almost nothing about themselves," he complained to his officers. "This isn't real communication. Maybe they're just naturally cautious," Olivia suggested. "Or maybe they don't like what they've learned about us," Ryan said darkly. Suddenly, Lieutenant Susan Carter straightened in her chair. "Commander, I'm detecting power fluctuations in the alien ships. They're changing their formation." Daniel moved quickly to her station. "Are they preparing weapons?" Susan shook her head. "No, but their engines are powering up. I think they're getting ready to leave." "After all this?" Daniel was shocked. "Olivia, hail them immediately." The main screen lit up with the now familiar face of the Zalari representative. "Human vessel." It said formally, "We have completed our assessment of your species. We will now depart this system." "Wait," Daniel said quickly. "We've barely begun to communicate. There's so much we could learn from each other." The alien's large eyes blinked slowly. Perhaps, but the Zalari Collective has determined that further contact is not advisable at this time. Before Daniel could respond, the screen went dark. The crystal ships began to move away in perfect formation, their engines glowing brighter. "Should we follow them, sir?" The helm officer asked. Daniel watched the retreating ships with a mixture of disappointment and confusion. "No, that might be seen as a threat. Let them go." As the Zilari ships moved away, Grand Admiral Vexer looked at the human vessel one last time on his screen. "Send the report to all Zilari worlds," he ordered. "All ships are to avoid human space. Any human vessels encountered are to be treated with extreme caution." "Will we never contact them again?" Science Officer Zekthal asked. "Perhaps someday," the Admiral said, "when we better understand these strange and frightening creatures. But for now, we will watch from a distance as they spread into the stars, and we will hope they go in a different direction from us." The Valiant remained at its position near Neptune for 2 more days after the Zalari ships departed. Commander Daniel Wright had hoped the aliens might change their minds and return, but there was no sign of them. Finally, he gave the order to return to Earth. "Set course for home," he told the helm officer. "It's time to report what happened here." The mood on the ship was mixed. Some crew members were disappointed that first contact had ended so abruptly. Others were relieved that there had been no conflict. Everyone was curious about why the aliens had left. "I don't understand it," Daniel said to his senior officers during their final meeting before reaching Earth. "They came all this way, spent days studying us, and then just left without really talking to us." "Maybe that was their mission all along," Lieutenant Susan Carter suggested. "Just to study us, not to make friends." Security Chief Ryan Blackwood had a darker view. "Or maybe they didn't like what they saw. Maybe we scared them." Daniel looked surprised. Scared them? Their technology was clearly more advanced than ours. What could they possibly fear from us? Medical Officer Ben Howard spoke up. "Advanced technology doesn't always mean advanced in all ways. Maybe they evolved differently than we did. Maybe the things that shaped human development our competitiveness, our survival instincts, are foreign to them." This idea stuck with Daniel as the Valiant approached Earth. He thought about it as he prepared his report for Earth Command. What if the aliens had been frightened not by what humans could do now, but by what they saw in human nature? Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, the Zilari fleet had returned to their home system. Grand Admiral Vexer presented the full report on humans to the High Council of the Zilari Collective. The council chamber was silent as the 12 elder members reviewed the information. "This is most disturbing," said Murda, the eldest council member. "In all our explorations, we have never encountered a species like these humans." Science Officer Zekthal stood before the council, ready to answer questions. "They are indeed unique in our experience," he agreed. "Their evolution took a very different path from our own." Another council member, Jevron, looked troubled. "Your report suggests they could become a significant threat in the future. Should we consider preemptive measures?" This question caused a stir in the chamber. The Zilari had never launched an unprovoked attack on another species. It went against their most basic principles. "I do not recommend such action," Zekthal said firmly. "The humans have not shown hostility toward us. They sought peaceful contact in a warship," Jevran pointed out. "Yes, but they made no aggressive moves," Zekthal reminded the council. "And their level of technology poses no immediate threat to the collective." Behavioral analyst Mektal joined Zekthal before the council. "There is something else to consider," he said. "A human's psychological profile shows they respond very poorly to unprovoked aggression. If we were to attack them without clear cause, they would likely unify and devote all their considerable resources to retaliating. The council discussed the issue for many hours. In the end, they decided on a cautious approach. The region of space containing Earth would be marked in all Zilari charts as a restricted zone. No Zilari ships would enter that sector without special permission from the High Council. "We will watch them from a distance," Murda declared. "If they expand outward from their home system, we will avoid contact and keep our distance." "And if they discover us again?" Admiral Vexer asked. "Then we will reassess," Murda said. "Perhaps in time they will evolve beyond their warlike tendencies. If not..." The Elder left the thought unfinished. Back on Earth, the Valiant docked at the orbital station. Commander Daniel Wright was immediately called to meet with Earth Command. The large meeting room was filled with military and political leaders, all eager to hear about the first contact with an alien species. "They just left?" General Lavra Evans asked after Daniel finished his report. "Without explanation?" "They said further contact was not advisable at this time," Daniel quoted. "But they didn't explain why. Did they make any threats?" Asked Defense Secretary Alan Peters. "None," Daniel confirmed. "They were formal, but not hostile." Science Director Maria Garcia looked thoughtful. "Based on your report, Commander, they spent most of their time scanning and analyzing your ship. What do you think they were looking for?" Daniel had been thinking about this question for days. "I believe they were trying to understand us through our technology. The Valiant is built to human specifications, designed for human needs and priorities. It reflects who we are as a species. And what would they have learned from that analysis?" Maria Prescott Daniel took a deep breath. "That we build ships ready for conflict. That we prepare for the worst situations. That we value survival above almost everything else." The room was quiet as everyone considered this. Finally, Admiral Joe Foster spoke. "You think they were afraid of us, despite their advanced technology?" "I do," Daniel said. "Or more accurately, I think they were afraid of what we might become. The Valiant is just one ship, but it represents humanity's approach to the unknown cautious, prepared for danger, ready to fight if necessary." In the following weeks, Earth's governments debated how to proceed. Some wanted to send more ships to the area where the aliens had been encountered, hoping they would return. Others argued for developing more powerful weapons in case the aliens came back with hostile intentions. A few suggested focusing on more peaceful technology to show any watching aliens that humans weren't just warriors. 6 months after the encounter, Commander Daniel Wright was given command of a new mission. The Valiant, along with 2 other ships, would venture beyond Neptune's orbit to look for signs of the Zilari or any other alien species. "Do you think we'll find them again?" Lieutenant Susan Carter asked as they prepared to depart. "I don't know," Daniel admitted. "But if we do, I want to show them a different side of humanity." The Valiant had been modified for this new mission. The weapon systems were still there. Daniel wasn't foolish enough to venture into deep space unarmed, but the ship now carried an expanded science section, better communication equipment, and more cultural and historical databases to share. With any aliens they might encounter as the small fleet moved beyond Neptune, Daniel looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, the Zilari were watching and waiting, trying to decide if humans were too dangerous to know. He hoped someday to prove them wrong. But deep in Zilari space, the warning beacons were already being placed. The reports had been distributed to all Zilari worlds. The images of the human warship, with its multiple weapon systems, its redundant design, and its crew trained to fight against overwhelming odds, had made a deep impression. Grand Admiral Vexer stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the star maps that now showed human space marked in warning colors. "They may seem primitive now," he told his officers, "but they advance quickly, and they never stop preparing for the next battle. If they ever decide we are their enemy, He didn't need to finish the thought. The Zilari had analyzed the human Warship thoroughly. What they discovered had filled them with fear, not of what humans were, but of what humans could become if pushed into conflict. It was a fear that would shape Zilari policy for generations to come, as both species moved forward into an uncertain future among the stars.